The walls close around me as the demonic entity's grip tightens. My body convulses and contorts against my will, limbs thrashing with supernatural strength. A guttural, inhuman growl escapes my lips, chilling my spine. I can feel the darkness coiling around my consciousness, threatening to consume me entirely. This is not how my life was supposed to be. I'm Samuel, a pragmatic person who prides myself on my rationality and self-control. I have it all figured out. A successful career, a comfortable apartment, and a commitment-free lifestyle. Or at least, that's how it used to be. It started a few weeks ago with minor, unexplained disturbances, objects moving on their own, strange noises in the middle of the night, and painfully real waking nightmares. I chalked it up to stress, or maybe even a bout of sleep paralysis. But as the incidents escalated, I could no longer ignore the unsettling truth. Something sinister has latched onto me, something I can't rationalize or control. It all began when, on a rainy afternoon, I stumbled upon an antique shop that held an object that would turn my world upside down. I found an ornate box of polished wood with intricate silver filigree and discovered a stone amulet with symbols I didn't recognize. The moment I touched the amulet, a cold shiver ran down my spine, and the air around me thickened ominously. I couldn't ignore the feeling that this curiosity had awakened something malevolent. I was forced to battle for my soul, all because I discovered an object that should have remained lost to time. Now, as I'm trapped in the grip of this demonic possession, I'm acutely aware of just how fragile my sense of order and reason truly is. The demon's malevolent energy courses through me, subjugating my will and warping my very being. I fight against it with every fiber of my being, but the more I resist, the tighter its claws sink into me. A piercing scream rips from my throat, echoing through the confines of my modest apartment. The bookshelf in the corner trembles, books toppling to the floor with a thunderous crash. I feel a dark, spectral presence coiling around me, suffocating my rational mind. My vision blurs, and for a terrifying moment, I'm not even sure who or where I am anymore. Gasping for air, I try to ground myself, to call upon the logic and composure that have always been my strengths. But the demon's influence is relentless, worming its way deeper into the fabric of my psyche. It's as if the very foundations of my reality are crumbling beneath me. "Get out of my head!" I scream, my voice ragged and strained. "Leave me alone." The apartment falls silent, save for the sound of my ragged breathing. I know the demon is still there, lurking beneath the surface, waiting to assert its control again. I can feel its malicious presence, a heavy, suffocating weight that seems to sap the air from my lungs. Trembling, I drag myself to my feet, staggering towards the bathroom. I must see my face to remind myself I'm still here and haven't been completely consumed. But I almost don't recognize myself when I glimpse my reflection in the mirror. My eyes are sunken, the whites tinged with an unsettling reddish hue. Dark veins pulse at my temples, and my skin seems to have taken on an unnaturally pale, waxy sheen. I bring a hand up to my face, watching in horror as my fingers twitch and contort in ways that defy the normal bounds of human movement. "This isn't real," I mutter, my voice quivering. "It can't be real." But deep down, I know the truth. This is very, very real. The demon has its claws in me, and it's not about to let go. Stumbling back into the living room, I collapse onto the couch, my mind racing. How did this happen? I'm a logical, grounded person. I don't believe in the supernatural. I don't entertain the idea of demonic possession. And yet, here I am, trapped in a nightmare that defies all rational explanation. I need to get help, I realize. I need to find a way to expel this demonic entity before it consumes me entirely. But who would believe my story? The doctors would likely dismiss it as a mental health crisis, and I can't imagine the police or any other authorities would take me seriously. As I ponder my next move, a sudden, jarring thud causes me to jump. The coffee table lurches, its surface rippling like some unseen force pulsing beneath it. I stare at it, transfixed, as a crack begins to spider its way across the glass. "No, no," I whisper, my heart pounding. "This can't be happening." The crack widens, and the glass groans and splinters. Then, with a deafening crash, the table shatters, shards flying in all directions. I flinch, shielding my face, but the demon's power seems to deflect the debris, leaving me unharmed. Shaking, I slowly lower my arms, staring at the pile of broken glass. The apartment is silent once more, save for the faint sound of my ragged breathing. But I know the demon is still here, its presence a suffocating weight in the air. I can't stay here, I realize. This is no longer a safe haven. It's a trap, a cage of the demon's making. I need to get out, find help, and find a way to escape this nightmare. Steeling myself, I rise to my feet, my legs trembling beneath me. I have to try, I tell myself. I have to fight this, no matter how daunting the task. Grabbing my keys and phone, I reach the front door, pausing only to glance back at the shattered coffee table. I won't let you win, I whisper, my voice laced with determination. I won't let you take me. With that, I yank open the door and step out into the night, praying that I can escape the demon's grasp before it's too late. The shattered remains of the coffee table crunch beneath my feet as I rush to gather a few essential items, my wallet, keys, and phone. My hands tremble as I shove them into the pockets of my jeans, the weight of the demon's presence bearing down on me like a physical force. I need to get out of here, to put as much distance between myself and this corrupted space as possible. The demon has made my sanctuary, into a cage. I can feel its malicious energy seeping through the walls, tightening its grip on my mind and body with every passing moment. Yanking open the front door, I spill into the cool night air, gulping it down greedily as if it might somehow purge the demon's taint from my lungs. The quiet suburban street is deserted, save for a lone streetlight flickering in the distance. I pause, unsure of where to go, my frantic gaze darting from one end of the block to the other. Think. I can't just wander aimlessly. I need a plan, a strategy to combat this supernatural threat. Clenching my jaw, I decide on a course of action and hurry down the sidewalk, my steps quickening with each passing moment. My destination is the public library, just a few blocks away. If there's any hope of finding answers, it will be buried in the stacks of books and archives there. I know it's a long shot, but at this point, I'm grasping at any sliver of hope, any potential lifeline that might help me break free of the demon's clutches. As I walk, my mind races, cycling through the bizarre events of the past few weeks. The unexplained disturbances, the waking nightmares, and now the full-blown possession. It's all too much to process, too far beyond the boundaries of my rational worldview. How could this be happening to me, of all people? I've always prided myself on my pragmatism and ability to keep a cool head in adversity. But now, that stoic composure is crumbling, replaced by a deep, gnawing terror that I can't seem to shake. The demon's influence has wormed its way into the core of my being, corrupting my thoughts and distorting my perception of reality. A shiver runs down my spine as I recall the sight of my own reflection, twisted and contorted by the demon's power. The unnaturally pale skin, the sunken eyes, the twitching, unnatural movements, it was like staring into a stranger's face, a grotesque caricature of my former self. I can still feel the demon's presence, a suffocating weight pressing in on me from all sides. It's as if the air has thickened, becoming heavy and oppressive, making each breath a struggle. I look nervously over my shoulder, half expecting to see some malevolent spectral form lurking in the shadows. When I reach the library, my nerves are frayed, and my mind is in a whirlwind of fear and uncertainty. Pushing open the heavy wooden doors, I step into the dimly lit foyer, where the familiar scent of books and old paper provides a momentary respite from the oppressive atmosphere outside. Moving quickly, I approach the reference section, my gaze scanning the shelves for any books or resources that might offer insight into the supernatural, the paranormal, and the realm of demonic possession. My fingers tremble as I pull volume after volume from the shelves, the titles blurring together in a dizzying array of potential answers. Clutching the books to my chest, I find an isolated table in the furthest corner of the library and sink into one of the worn leather-bound chairs. Taking a deep, steadying breath, I flip through the pages, my eyes scanning the text with an almost feverish intensity. The first few books offer vague folklore and unsupported theories, providing no concrete information to guide me. Frustrated, I toss them aside, my hands clenching into fists as I fight to maintain my composure. There has to be something here. I mutter, my voice barely above a whisper. There has to be a way to stop this. Undeterred, I press on, delving deeper into the occult and supernatural tomes. As I read, a pattern begins to emerge, common symptoms of demonic possession, the signs of a malevolent entity's presence, and potential methods for exorcism and banishment. My heart sinks as I realize the gravity of my situation. The strange occurrences I've been experiencing, the loss of control over my own body, they all align with the textbook signs of demonic possession. The demon's ability to manipulate my environment, to shatter objects with its power, suggests that I'm dealing with a potent and ancient entity. The prospect of confronting such a formidable foe fills me with dread, but I refuse to let it consume me. I've always been a fighter, a problem solver, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let some demonic force rob me of my agency and my identity. Steeling myself, I continue reading, my eyes devouring every scrap of information I can find. The books describe various rituals and practices used to identify and expel demonic spirits, from sacred symbols and chants to the participation of trained exorcists. As I leaf through the pages, a glimmer of hope takes root in my mind. With the right knowledge and the proper precautions, I can find a way to break free of the demon's grip. Reclaiming my life and regaining control over my mind and body fills me with renewed determination. Gathering the most promising volumes, I rise from the table, my steps quickening as I approach the front desk. The librarian eyes me with curiosity and concern, but I pay her little mind, my focus solely on the task at hand. "I need to check these out," I say, my voice steady despite the turmoil. "As soon as possible, if you don't mind." The librarian nods, her brow furrowing slightly as she processes the request. "Of course, ma'am," she replies, her tone laced with a hint of hesitation. "Is everything all right?" I pause, tempted to spill the entire harrowing tale, to beg for her help and understanding. But something holds me back, a nagging sense of doubt and self-preservation that prevents me from revealing the whole truth. "Yes, everything's fine," I lie, forcing a reassuring smile. "I'm just doing some research for a personal project. That's all." The librarian nods again, accepting my explanation without further question. As she scans the books and hands them to me, I offer a murmured word of thanks, my mind already racing ahead to the next steps in my plan. Clutching the materials tightly, I step back into the night. The chill of the air is a stark contrast to the heat of the demon's presence that still lingers within me. But this time, I feel a glimmer of hope, a newfound determination that burns brighter with each passing moment. I may not know precisely how to defeat this demonic entity, but I'm no longer blindly groping in the dark. I have information, resources, and a growing resolve that refuses to be extinguished. As I make my way back towards my apartment, I can't help but feel a renewed sense of purpose, a conviction that, somehow, I will find a way to reclaim my life and my soul. The demon may have targeted me, but I am no mere pawn to be manipulated. I am a rational, half-pragmatic person who has always prided myself on my ability to adapt and overcome. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let some malevolent supernatural force take that away from me. The short drive back to my apartment feels like an eternity, the weight of the demon's presence a suffocating force that seems to press in on me from all sides. My knuckles whiten as I grip the steering wheel, my eyes darting nervously from one shadowy corner to the next, half expecting to see some malevolent, spectral form lurking in the darkness. A chill runs down my spine as I pull into the parking lot and leave the car. The building looms before me, its familiar facade now tinged with a sinister aura that sends a shiver of dread through my core. I pause for a moment, steeling myself, before making my way towards the entrance. The books I checked out from the library clutched tightly to my chest. With each step, the demon's influence seems to intensify, a palpable weight that threatens to crush the very air from my lungs. I can feel its presence, a dark and malevolent energy that seeps through the walls, coiling around me like a serpent ready to strike. I quicken my pace, desperate to reach the safety of my apartment, to put physical distance between myself and this unseen enemy. But as I approach the front door, a sudden, inexplicable force seems to push against me, as if the demon itself is trying to bar my entry. Gritting my teeth, I push forward, the books in my arms momentarily shielding me from the demon's onslaught. The moment I step across the threshold, however, the air grows thick and heavy, and I struggle to breathe fully. The apartment is eerily silent, save for the faint creaking of the floorboards and the distant hum of the refrigerator. Casting a wary glance around the familiar space, I approach the living room, my eyes scanning the area for any sign of disturbance. Everything appears to be in its proper place, the shattered remnants of the coffee table having been cleaned up, the broken glass removed. But as I draw closer, a sense of unease settles over me, a nagging feeling that something is not quite right. Slowly, I lower the books to the coffee table, my gaze fixed on the empty space where the shattered glass once lay. The air is still, unnaturally so, and the hairs on the back of my neck begin to prickle. "I know you're here," I whisper, barely audible. "Show yourself, you thing." The words barely left my lips when a sudden, ominous presence loomed behind me. Whirling around, I found myself face to face with a swirling, spectral entity, its form shifting and contorting in a way that defied all logic and reason. A strangled gasp escapes my throat as I stumble backward, my heart pounding in my chest. The demon's presence is overwhelming, a suffocating force that seems to suck the very air from the room. I can feel its malevolent gaze dull into me. Its essence is probing and testing the boundaries of my mind. "What do you want from me?" I demand, my voice trembling with fear and defiance. "Why are you doing this?" The demon's response comes not in words, but in a barrage of visceral sensations and images that flood my consciousness. Fragments of nightmarish visions assault my mind, each one more disturbing than the last. Twisted, contorted figures, the stench of sulfur and decay, the agonizing cries of tortured souls. I cry out, my hands flying to my temples as I try to shut out the onslaught of sensory input. The demon's influence is overwhelming, its power seeping into the fabric of my being, corrupting my senses and distorting my perception of reality. "Stop it!" I scream, my voice raw with desperation. "Get out of my head." The demon's presence intensifies, its spectral form coalescing into a more defined shape. I catch glimpses of sharp, jagged features, eyes that burn unholy malevolence, and a gaping maw that seems to yawn open with an otherworldly hunger. Stumbling backward, I fumble for the books I had set down, desperate to find some kind of weapon, some means of defense against this supernatural onslaught. My fingers close around the worn spines, and I frantically flip through the pages, searching for any information that might help me. The demon's presence presses in, its energy pulsing and undulating as if alive and sentient. I can feel it probing my mind, searching for weaknesses and vulnerabilities it can exploit. The sensation is invasive and violating, and I find myself struggling to maintain a grip on my own consciousness. Flipping through the pages, I come across a passage describing the use of sacred symbols and rituals to ward off demonic entities. Without hesitation, I begin tracing a series of arcane sigils on the floor, my movements frantic and desperate. The demon recoils, its spectral form seeming to writhe and contort in response to the sacred geometry. A menacing, guttural growl rumbles from its depths, and I can sense its fury and frustration at being thwarted. Emboldened, I continue my recitation, invoking the names of ancient deities and praying for protection. The air in the apartment grows thick and heavy, charged with an almost tangible energy. I can feel the demon's power pushing back. Its influence is swelling and surging like the tide. For a moment, it seems as if the rituals are working, that I might be able to hold the demon at bay. But just as I begin to feel a glimmer of hope, the entity's presence intensifies tenfold, an overwhelming wave of dark energy that crashes against the fragile barriers I've erected. The books fly from my hands, pages fluttering like a violent wind. The sigils I had so carefully traced begin to blur and distort, their sacred power dissipating under the onslaught of the demon's malevolence. I cry out, my voice mingling with the unearthly howls reverberating through the apartment's walls. The air grows thick and suffocating, and I struggle to breathe fully, my lungs burning with the effort. The demon's presence surrounds me, coiling and wrapping around my body like a serpent, intent on crushing the life from me. I can feel its cold, spectral fingers clawing at my mind, tearing at the fragile threads of my sanity. Panic begins, a primal fear that threatens to consume me entirely. I thrash and struggle, but the demon's grip is unyielding, its power far beyond the scope of my meager defenses. "No, no, no." I whimper, my voice barely audible over the cacophony of unearthly sounds filling the room. This can't be happening. It can't be real. But as the demon's influence grows more muscular, I can no longer deny the harsh reality of my situation. This is no mere nightmare, no figment of my imagination. The demon is real, its power tangible and undeniable, and it has chosen me as its latest prey. Exhausted and overwhelmed, I feel my body begin to betray me, my muscles growing heavy and unresponsive. The demon's energy seeps into every fiber of my being, and I can feel my consciousness slipping, my sense of self fading like the last flicker of a candle in the wind. With a final, agonized scream, I succumb to the darkness, my mind and body surrendering to the demon's relentless onslaught. As the world around me fades to black, I can't help but wonder if I've lost this battle forever, if the demon has genuinely succeeded in claiming me as its own. The future is uncertain, a vast, yawning void that fills me with a deep, abiding dread. But even as the demon's influence envelops me, a tiny, flickering ember of defiance still burns within my soul. I may have lost this round, but I refuse to give up. Somehow, I will find the strength to fight back and reclaim my mind and body from this malevolent entity. This is not over, I tell myself, even as the darkness threatens to consume me. The demon may have tightened its grip, but I'm not going down without a fight. I will find a way to break free, no matter the cost. With that final, resolute thought, I allow myself to be swallowed by the void, steeling myself for the battle yet to come. The darkness that had consumed me seemed to stretch on for an eternity, a void so complete and consuming that I lost all sense of time and space. The demon's presence enveloped me, a suffocating weight that bore down on my psyche, tormenting me with visions of unspeakable horrors. Just when I thought I might be lost forever, a glimmer of consciousness began to return, a flickering light in the abyss. Slowly, painfully, I fought to claw my way back to regain control of my fractured mind and battered body. As my senses gradually came back into focus, I found myself lying on the floor of my apartment, my limbs trembling and my breath coming in ragged gasps. The books I had gathered from the library were scattered around me, their pages fluttering in the oppressive silence. The demon's presence still lingered, a palpable weight that made the air feel thick and heavy. I could sense its malevolent energy, coiling and undulating like a living, breathing entity waiting to strike. Summoning what little strength I had left, I pushed myself into a sitting position, my gaze darting around the room. The apartment seemed undisturbed, save for the disarray caused by the demon's previous assault. But I knew better than to let my guard down. This was no longer a safe haven, but a cage of the demon's making. Steeling myself, I gathered the scattered books, my fingers trembling as I flipped through the pages. The information they contained offered glimmers of hope and a stark reminder of the daunting challenge ahead. The texts revealed that overcoming demonic possession was no simple matter. The entities that could take control of a human mind and body were ancient, powerful forces, often deeply rooted in the darkest corners of occult lore. Expelling such a presence required unwavering determination, specialized knowledge, and guidance from those well-versed in the arcane arts. As I read, a growing sense of unease settled over me. The demon's power seemed to surpass anything I had encountered in the books. Its malevolence and cunning were unlike anything the authors had described. I began to doubt whether I could find the answers I sought within these pages, whether I possessed the strength and the fortitude to confront such a formidable foe. Frustrated, I tossed the books aside, burying my face in my hands. I had come here seeking answers, a way to reclaim my life and my sanity, but now I found myself feeling more lost and helpless than ever before. "There has to be a way," I murmured, trembling. "I can't give up when I've come this far." Steeling myself, I rose to my feet, my gaze sweeping the room as I searched for any clue, any glimmer of hope that might guide me. My eyes landed on the bookshelf in the corner, its shelves lined with a hodgepodge of tomes and trinkets, remnants of my former life. Crossing the room, I carefully examined the contents, my fingers trailing over the spines of the books. Most were simply works of fiction or self-help guides, offering little practical advice for dealing with supernatural threats. But then, a small, unassuming volume on the bottom shelf caught my eye. Pulling it free, I brushed away the thin layer of dust, revealing the title embossed on the worn leather cover, Occult Practices and Ritual Magic. My heart quickened with a renewed sense of purpose as I flipped it open, my eyes devouring the pages. The book delved into the history and practice of various occult rituals, from ancient pagan rites to modern-day Wiccan ceremonies. As I read, I devised a strategy, a plan of action that might give me a fighting chance against the demon. The text described using sacred symbols, protective talismans, and the invocation of powerful entities to banish malevolent spirits. It also spoke of the importance of setting the proper ritual space, cleansing the area, and creating a safe, sanctified environment. Hope to surge within me, I quickly gathered the necessary supplies: candles, incense, a small bowl of consecrated salt, and a worn but well-preserved leather-bound journal. Carrying them back to the living room, I carefully arranged the space, tracing intricate sigils on the floor and the walls, filling the air with the heady scent of sage and frankincense. As I worked, I could feel the demon's presence growing more agitated, its energy pulsing and swelling around me. The air grew thick and oppressive, and I struggled to focus, keep my hands steady, and keep my mind clear. But I refused to be deterred. This was my last, best chance to break free of the demon's grip, to reclaim my life and my sanity. With a deep, steadying breath, I opened the journal and began to recite the ritual chants and invocations, my voice strong and unwavering despite the turmoil. The effect was almost immediate. As the words passed my lips, a tangible shift in the room's energy began to take shape. The air seemed to crackle with a palpable power, and I could feel the demon's presence recoiling, its malevolent influence retreating in the face of the sacred rites. Emboldened, I continued the ritual, calling upon the protection of ancient deities and invoking the power of the elements to purify the space. The candles flickered and danced, and the salt scattered across the floor began to glow with a faint, otherworldly light. The demon's reaction was swift and violent. I felt its presence surge forward, a wave of pure, unadulterated rage that threatened to overwhelm me. Objects in the room began to tremble and levitate, the walls seeming to pulse and contort under the strain of the supernatural forces. I braced myself, my mind racing as I struggled to maintain the integrity of the ritual. The demon lashed out, hurling unseen projectiles and assaulting my senses with a barrage of nightmarish visions. But I refused to be cowed, my determination fueling my resolve as I continued the chants and incantations. The battle raged on, a clash of wills and power that seemed to consume the very fabric of reality. I could feel the demon's influence waning, its grip on my mind and body beginning to slip. But it fought back with a ferocity that left me reeling, its malevolence a tangible, suffocating force. When I thought I might be overwhelmed, a new presence seemed to manifest within the ritual space, a benevolent energy that countered the demon's assault. I felt a surge of strength, a renewed sense of purpose that bolstered my flagging determination. With a final, agonized howl, the demon's presence was banished, its essence dissolving into the ether. The air grew still, the candles flickering and dying out as the sacred space returned to normal. Exhausted but triumphant, I sank to the floor, my heart pounding. The ordeal had taken a tremendous toll, physically and mentally, but I had emerged victorious, at least for the moment. As I sat there, surrounded by the remnants of the ritual, a sense of relief and cautious optimism began to take root. I had found a way to break the demon's hold, to reclaim a modicum of control over my own life. But I knew that the battle was far from over, that the demon would undoubtedly return, its thirst for vengeance unquenched. Steeling myself, I rose to my feet, my gaze sweeping the room. There was still much work to be done, more knowledge to be sought, more defenses to be erected. But for now, I allowed myself a brief moment of respite, a chance to catch my breath and steel my resolve for the battles yet to come. The demon may have tightened its grip, but I had found a way to fight back, to break free of its stranglehold. As I made my way toward the bedroom, a flicker of determination burned bright within my soul, a resolve that refused to be extinguished. I would not be cowed, I would not be defeated. This was my life, mind, and very being, and I would do whatever it took to reclaim it, no matter the cost. The demon had chosen the wrong host, the wrong victim, and I would make it pay dearly for its arrogance. With that thought in mind, I prepared myself for the next battle phase, confident that I had the tools and the determination to emerge victorious. The lingering scent of sage and frankincense still hung heavy in the air, a testament to the intense occult ritual I had just endured. My hands trembled slightly as I gathered up the scattered remnants of the ritual: the candles, the salt, the worn leather journal. The demon's presence had been banished, its malevolent influence driven back by the power of the sacred rites. But I knew, deep down, that this was only a temporary respite, a brief moment of calm before the storm. I collapsed onto the couch and ran a trembling hand through my hair, my mind racing with emotions. Relief, exhaustion, and a persistent sense of unease all vied for dominance as I tried to make sense of the ordeal I had just faced. The demon's grip had been so powerful, so all-consuming, that I had feared I might never break free. But the ritual, guided by the wisdom of the occult texts, had given me the strength and focus I needed to resist its influence. For now, at least, I had reclaimed a measure of control over my own mind and body. But even as I basked in the glow of this small victory, a nagging sense of dread began to creep back into my consciousness. The demon, I knew, was not the type of entity to be easily deterred. It would undoubtedly return, its thirst for vengeance unquenchable, and I would need to be ready to face it again. Steeling myself, I rose from the couch and began to pace the length of the living room, my mind churning with strategies and contingency plans. I needed to bolster my defenses, fortify this space, and equip myself with the knowledge and tools to vanquish the demon for good. As I moved, a sudden shift in the air caused me to pause and instantly heightened my senses. The atmosphere seemed to thicken, the apartment walls closing in around me, and I felt a familiar, oppressive presence begin to tug at the edges of my consciousness. "No," I whispered, my voice barely audible as a shiver of dread ran down my spine. "Not again. I won't let you in." But the demon's influence was relentless, a coiling, spectral force that seemed to seep through the very fabric of reality. I could feel it probing my mind, searching for weaknesses and vulnerabilities it could exploit. And to my horror, I realized that the demon's actual target was not my physical being, but the very depths of my psyche. Memories and emotions I had long suppressed became unbidden and unwelcome. Fragments of my troubled past, the traumas and fears that had shaped me, came rushing back with a clarity and intensity that left me reeling. I saw flashes of my childhood, a fractured mosaic of broken homes and neglectful guardians. The demon's presence seemed to amplify these recollections, twisting and distorting them until they became unrecognizable, nightmarish caricatures of the truth. Voices I had long silenced echoed in my mind, taunting and berating me, undermining the hard-won confidence and self-assurance I had worked so diligently to build. The demon was not simply attacking my physical form. It was assaulting the very foundation of my identity, tearing down the carefully constructed walls that had protected me for so long. As the memories and emotions overwhelmed me, I felt my knees buckle, and I sank to the floor, my hands clasped tightly over my ears in a futile attempt to block out the onslaught. The air grew thick and suffocating to draw a full breath, my lungs burning with the effort. "Stop it," I pleaded, my voice cracking with desperation. "Get out of my head! Leave me alone!" But the demon's grasp only tightened, its malevolent presence seeping more profound into the recesses of my mind. I was drowning, submerged in a sea of tangled, traumatic memories, each one more harrowing and debilitating than the last. The sudden sound of shattering glass sent me reeling, my head snapping in alarm. The mirror on the far wall had splintered, the shards cascading to the floor in a deafening cascade. I stared at the jagged fragments, my heart pounding in my chest, as a horrifying realization dawned on me. The demon was not just assaulting my mind, it was manipulating the physical world around me, using the remnants of my past to torment and unravel me. The broken mirror was a stark, tangible reminder of the fragility of my own psyche, a cruel reflection of the damage the demon was inflicting on my very sense of self. Trembling, I pulled myself to my feet, my gaze darting frantically around the apartment. Everywhere I looked, I saw the specter of my past, the worn, second-hand furniture, the fading photographs that lined the walls, and the tattered books that held the remnants of my former life. The demon had turned my sanctuary, my carefully curated haven, into a prison of my own memories, a labyrinth of trauma and fear that threatened to consume me entirely. I felt the walls closing in, the air growing thicker and more oppressive with each passing moment, and a sense of panic began to set in. I needed to get out, to escape this oppressive environment before it destroyed me. Grabbing my keys and phone, I rushed towards the front door, my steps faltering as the demon's influence tugged at the edges of my consciousness. "No, no, no," I muttered, my voice trembling. "I won't let you win. I won't let you take me." With a desperate burst of willpower, I wrenched open the door and spilled out into the cool night air, gulping it down greedily. The demon's presence seemed to linger, a suffocating weight that clung to me like a second skin, but I refused to let it deter me. I needed to find help, to seek out those who might understand the nature of the supernatural forces I was battling. The ritual offered a temporary respite, but I knew it was not enough to permanently vanquish the demon. I would need to delve deeper to uncover the root of its malevolence and the key to my own salvation. As I hurried down the sidewalk, the streets dark and deserted, a sense of determination began to take hold. The demon may have dredged up the painful memories of my past and may have sought to use them to break me, but I would not be cowed. I had come too far, fought too hard, to let this malevolent entity claim me as its own. With each step, I felt a renewed sense of purpose, a resolve that refused to be extinguished. I would confront the demons of my past, both literal and figurative, and emerge victorious. This was my life, mind, and very being, and I would do whatever it took to reclaim it, no matter the cost. The path ahead may have been uncertain, but I refused to be deterred. I would find a way to break free of the demon's grasp, to reclaim my sanity and my identity. As I hurried through the night, a flicker of hope began to burn brighter within my soul, a fiery determination that refused to be extinguished. I am someone who has weathered the storms of life. I would be damned if I let some demonic entity snatch that away from me. This was my battle to fight, my war to win, and I was more than ready to face the challenges ahead. As I hurried through the darkened streets, the demon's oppressive presence lingered like a physical weight on my shoulders. The memories it had dredged up, the painful fragments of my past that had been twisted and distorted, continued to haunt me, their jagged edges tearing at the fragile fabric of my psyche. But even in the face of this onslaught, a growing determination burned within me, a resolve that refused to be extinguished. I knew that I could not afford to be cowed and had to press forward and confront this malevolent entity head-on. The stakes were too high, the threat too catastrophic, to allow the demon to claim victory. With that thought in mind, I made my way towards the downtown district, my destination, a small, unassuming storefront I had spotted during my previous research. The sign above the door read, "Arcane Insights," in a flowing, ornate script, and a faint glow emanated from the windows, casting an inviting aura into the night. As I pushed open the door, a delicate chime rang out, announcing my arrival. The shop's interior was dimly lit, the walls lined with towering shelves filled with an eclectic assortment of occult artifacts, leather-bound tomes, and mystical trinkets. The air was thick with the scent of incense and the faint hum of energy that seemed to permeate the atmosphere. At the far end of the room, a woman stood behind a worn wooden counter, her features obscured by the shadows. As I approached, she lifted her head, and I found myself drawn into a piercing gaze that seemed to bore into the depths of my soul. "Welcome," she said, her voice low and melodic. "I've been expecting you." I paused, momentarily taken aback by her words. "Expecting me?" I echoed, my brow furrowing in confusion. "How could you have known I would come?" The woman offered an enigmatic smile, her hands folding together on the counter. "The forces that plague you cast a long shadow, one that is felt by those attuned to the ebb and flow of the occult," she replied. "I have sensed your struggle, your desperate battle against the darkness that seeks to claim you." A shiver ran down my spine as her words sank in, a sudden realization dawning on me. "Then you know what I'm up against," I said, my voice laced with desperate hope. "You can help me, can't you?" The woman nodded slowly, her expression solemn. "I can, but the path before you is perilous. The entity that has chosen you as its host is an ancient, malevolent force that has evaded detection and conquest for centuries." She gestured towards the shelves, her fingers tracing the spines of the aged tomes. "The information you have gathered thus far has been a good start, But to truly confront this demon, you must delve deeper into the arcane to uncover the true nature of its origins and power. I felt a surge of determination, my hands clenching into fists at my sides. "Tell me what I need to know," I demanded, my voice tinged with a hint of desperation. "I won't let this thing take me without a fight." The woman's expression softened, a glimmer of empathy flickering in her gaze. "I admire your courage, but you must understand the gravity of the task before you. This demon is no mere specter, no ephemeral entity that can be easily banished. It is a primordial force that manifests the darkest impulses that have plagued humanity since the dawn of time." She retrieved a thick, leather-bound volume from beneath the counter, its cover adorned with intricate symbols and arcane runes. "This tome contains the most comprehensive information I have on the origins and nature of the demon that has chosen you as its host," she said, her voice grave. "Study it well, for it may hold the key to your salvation." I reached out, my fingers trembling slightly as I accepted the weighty volume. "What can you tell me about this demon?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What is its purpose, its goals?" The woman's expression grew somber, her gaze distant. "The demon you face is an ancient, primordial force that manifests the darkest impulses that have plagued humanity since the dawn of time. It is a being of pure, unadulterated malevolence, driven by a relentless hunger to corrupt and consume the essence of the human soul." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Its goal is not merely to possess you, to subjugate your mind and body. No, its true aim is far more sinister, to utterly annihilate your identity, to erase the very core of your being and replace it with its own malicious essence." A chill ran down my spine as the gravity of her words sank in, and I felt a wave of terror wash over me. "Then how?" I began, my voice trembling. "How can I possibly hope to defeat something so powerful?" The woman's gaze softened, and she reached across the counter to gently squeeze my hand. "You must not lose hope," she said, her voice firm. "For even in the face of such a formidable foe, there is a path to salvation, but it will require every ounce of your strength, will, and courage." She gestured towards the tome in my hands. "Within those pages lies the knowledge you need to uncover the demon's true nature, its weaknesses, and the ritual that may be your only hope of expelling it from your being. But be warned, the path ahead will be fraught with peril, and you must be prepared to confront the darkest corners of your psyche if you can succeed." I swallowed hard, my mind racing with a million questions and fears. "I don't know if I'm strong enough for this," I admitted, my voice wavering. "What if I fail? What if it consumes me?" The woman's expression hardened, her eyes burning with fierce determination. "You must not give in to doubt," she said, her tone brooking no argument. "If you fail, the consequences will be catastrophic, not just for you, but all those who may fall under the demon's influence." She leaned forward, her gaze piercing. "You are the only one who can stand against this ancient evil. The demon has chosen you for a reason, and it is up to you to rise to the challenge, confront your own fears and weaknesses, and emerge victorious." I felt a surge of resolve, a burning determination that threatened to overshadow the lingering traces of my fear. "Then tell me what I need to do," I said, my voice steadying. "I'll do whatever it takes to stop this demon, no matter the cost." The woman nodded, a faint smile playing at the corners of her lips. "Then listen closely, for time is of the essence. The demon's grip upon you tightens with each passing moment, and you must be prepared to face it head-on." She began to outline the ritual, the intricate steps and incantations required to uncover the demon's true nature and vulnerabilities. As she spoke, I listened with rapt attention, committing every detail to memory, my mind racing with a newfound sense of purpose. This was no longer just a battle for my survival. It was a battle for the soul of humanity, a test of my strength, will, and courage. And I would be damned if I was going to let some ancient, malevolent entity win. With a resolute nod, I gripped the tome tightly, my fingers tracing the intricate symbols on the cover. "I'm ready," I said, my voice filled with determination. "Let's do this." The woman's expression softened, a glimmer of pride shining in her eyes. "Then go, and may the forces of good be with you," she said. "For the fate of your very being hangs in the balance." I turned and strode towards the exit, my steps quickening with each passing moment. The demon's presence still lingered, a suffocating weight that threatened to drag me down, but I refused to be cowed. I had a purpose and a mission, and I would see it through, no matter the cost. As I stepped out into the night, the cool air a welcome respite, I felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. The tome pages burned with an intensity that matched the fire in my soul, and I knew that the time for action had come. I would confront this demon, this ancient evil, and emerge victorious. No longer would I be a passive victim, cowering in the face of the supernatural. I would fight to the bitter end to reclaim my life, identity, and soul. With that thought in mind, I set off into the night, the demon's ominous presence a constant companion as I prepared to face the ultimate test of my will and courage. The worn leather tome felt heavy in my hands as I hurried down the dimly lit streets, the demon's oppressive presence a constant companion at my back. With each step, the task's weight pressed down on me, a crushing burden that threatened to steal the very breath from my lungs. Yet, even as doubt and fear threatened to consume me, a steadfast determination burned within my soul. I would not be cowed, would not surrender to the malevolent entity that had invaded my life. This was my battle to fight, my war to win, and I would do whatever it took to emerge victorious. As I approached the entrance to my apartment building, the demon's energy seemed to coil and swell, sensing the impending confrontation. I steeled myself, taking a deep puff, steadying breath before opening the door and going up the familiar staircase. The air grew thick and heavy as I reached my floor, the walls seeming to tremble with the demon's malevolent presence. Pausing momentarily, I closed my eyes, mentally reciting the incantations and protective rites the woman from the occult shop had taught me. I could feel the energy of the ritual swirling around me, a tangible force that seemed to bolster my flagging courage. With a renewed sense of purpose, I approached the door to my apartment, the tome clutched tightly in my hands. Bracing myself, I turned the knob and stepped over the threshold, my gaze sweeping the room for any sign of the demonic entity. The living room appeared unchanged, the remnants of the previous ritual still scattered across the floor. But the air was charged with oppressive, suffocating energy, and I could feel the demon's presence lurking, just out of sight. "I know you're here," I called out, my voice steady despite the unease that ran through me. "Show yourself, you foul creature, and face me." For a moment, there was utter silence, the tension in the room thick enough to cut with a knife. And then, with a sudden, violent eruption, the demon manifested before me, its spectral form coalescing into a towering, menacing figure. I staggered back, my heart pounding in my chest, as the demon's malevolent gaze bore into me. Its features were shifting and distorted, a cacophony of sharp edges and jagged lines that seemed to defy the laws of physics. A low, guttural snarl rumbled from its depths, and I felt the air grow thick with the stench of sulfur and decay. Gritting my teeth, I quickly set the tome down on the coffee table, my fingers deftly flipping through the pages until I found the section on exorcism rituals. The demon's presence surged forward as if sensing the threat, and I felt a wave of energy slam into me, knocking me backward. I cried out, the air rushing from my lungs as I hit the wall with a dull thud. The demon advanced, its spectral form looming over me, and I could feel its malevolent power probing the edges of my mind, seeking weaknesses and vulnerabilities to exploit. "No," I growled, my voice ragged with defiance. "You won't break me, you bastard." Summoning every ounce of my willpower, I resisted the demon's influence, erecting mental barriers to shield my psyche from its onslaught. The air crackled with energy as the two forces collided, a clash of wills that threatened to tear the very fabric of reality. Gritting my teeth, I recited the incantation, the ancient words rolling off my tongue with a practiced rhythm. I could feel the power of the ritual building, a surge of sacred energy that seemed to flow through me, bolstering my resolve. The demon recoiled, its spectral form writhing and contorting as the protective wards I had erected began to take hold. A guttural howl of rage echoed through the apartment, and I felt a wave of pure, unbridled fury wash over me. But I refused to be deterred, my voice growing stronger and more resolute with each passing moment. I invoked the names of ancient deities, called upon the elements to aid in my defense, and channeled the collective power of centuries of occult knowledge. The demon's assault intensified, its malevolent energy lashing out in all directions. Furniture trembled and objects levitated, defying the laws of physics as the supernatural forces clashed. I braced myself, my body shielding the tome as I continued the ritual, my focus unwavering. The air grew thick and suffocating, and I struggled to breathe fully. Sweat beaded on my brow, and my limbs trembled with the exertion, but I refused to falter. This was my last, best chance to break free of the demon's grip, and I would be damned if I let it slip through my fingers. With a final, thunderous surge of power, the demon's presence seemed to coalesce, forming a towering, humanoid figure that loomed over me. Its features were a grotesque caricature of the human form, distorted and twisted beyond recognition. A cold, mirthless laugh echoed through the room, the demon's words dripping with malicious intent. "Foolish mortal," it hissed, its voice a grating, otherworldly rasp. "You think your feeble rituals can stop me? I am an ancient force, a primordial power that has existed since the dawn. Your pathetic attempts to banish me are nothing but an annoyance." I felt a wave of terror wash over me, my heart pounding in my chest. The demon's power was overwhelming, its very presence a crushing weight that threatened to smother the life from me. But even as the fear threatened to consume me, a flicker of defiance burned within my soul. "I'm not giving up," I growled, my voice thick with determination. "I won't let you win, you bastard. This ends here today." The demon's laughter echoed through the room, a harsh, grating sound that sent shivers down my spine. "Then so be it, little human," it sneered, its spectral form coiling around me like a serpent ready to strike. "Face the full wrath of the demon you have dared to challenge." With a deafening roar, the demon surged forward, clawed hands reaching for me with agonizing intent. I braced myself, the tome clutched tightly to my chest as I continued the incantation, pouring every ounce of my strength and willpower into the ritual. The air crackled with energy, and the very walls of the apartment trembled under the strain of the supernatural forces at play. I could feel the demon's influence probing my mind, seeking weaknesses and vulnerabilities to exploit. But I refused to yield, my consciousness fortified by the sacred power of the ritual. The battle raged on, a clash of wills and raw, primal energy that seemed to consume the very fabric of reality. I pushed back against the demon's assault, invoking the names of ancient deities and channeling the elemental forces to aid in my defense. Time seemed to slow, and I lost myself in a haze of chanting, sweat, and the overwhelming stench of sulfur and decay. The demon's attacks grew more frenzied and desperate as it realized the true extent of my determination. The ritual reached its climax with a final, earth-shattering surge of power. The air crackled with energy, and I felt a surge of sacred force wash over me, driving the demon back viscerally. The entity howled in agony, its spectral form disintegrating before my eyes. I watched, transfixed as it writhed and contorted, its malevolent essence being torn asunder by the power of the ritual. The battle raged on, a clash of wills and raw, primal energy that seemed to consume the very fabric of reality. I pushed back against the demon's assault, invoking the names of ancient deities and channeling the elemental forces to aid in my defense. Time seemed to slow, and I lost myself in a haze of chanting, sweat, and the overwhelming stench of sulfur and decay. The demon's attacks grew more frenzied and desperate as it realized the true extent of my determination. The ritual reached its climax with a final, earth-shattering surge of power. The air crackled with energy, and I felt a surge of sacred force wash over me, driving the demon back viscerally. The entity howled in agony, its spectral form disintegrating before my eyes. I watched, transfixed, as it writhed and contorted, its malevolent essence being torn asunder by the power of the ritual. And then, with a final, agonizing scream, the demon was gone, its presence vanishing from the apartment as if it had never been. The air grew still, the oppressive weight lifting from my shoulders, and I found myself collapsing to the floor, utterly drained. For a long moment, I lay there, my chest heaving, my mind reeling from the sheer intensity of the ordeal. I had done it, I realized, a sense of disbelief and triumph washing over me. I had confronted the demon, faced its ancient power, and emerged victorious. Slowly, I pulled myself to my feet, my gaze sweeping the room. The apartment was in disarray, the remnants of the ritual scattered everywhere, but the demon's suffocating presence was gone. I was free, I realized, my soul no longer under the threat of the malevolent entity's influence. A sense of elation, pure, unadulterated relief, surged through me, and a giddy laugh bubbled up. I had won against all odds, and knowing I had the strength and resolve to confront such a formidable foe filled me with a renewed sense of purpose. But even as the euphoria of victory washed over me, a lingering sense of unease began to creep into my consciousness. The demon, I knew, was a powerful, ancient force, and its reach extended far beyond the confines of my humble apartment. What if it had allies, other malevolent entities that sought to prey upon the weak and the vulnerable? The thought sent a chill down my spine, and I knew my work was far from over. I had won this battle, but the war against the supernatural forces that threatened to invade the rational, orderly world I had built was just beginning. With a deep, steadying breath, I gathered up the tome and the other occult materials, my mind already racing with plans and strategies for the battles ahead. I would not be caught off guard again, I vowed. I would be ready, armed with the knowledge and the determination to confront whatever dark forces sought to challenge me. The road ahead would be long and arduous, fraught with peril and uncertainty. But I was no longer the same person who had been terrorized by the demon's influence. I was a pragmatic, rational person who had faced the abyss and emerged stronger and more resolute than ever. As I stepped out into the night, the cool air was a welcome respite after the intensity of the ritual, and I felt a newfound sense of purpose and conviction. Whatever the future held, I would be ready. This was my fight, my war to win, and I would not rest until the last vestiges of the demon's malevolence had been purged from my life and the world. At first, the process was agonizing, a torrent of long-suppressed trauma washing over me in vivid, visceral flashes. I saw glimpses of my troubled childhood, the neglect and abuse that had left such deep, indelible scars. The echoes of mocking laughter and harsh words, the sting of physical blows, all came rushing back with a clarity that left me reeling. I felt myself spiraling, the walls of my carefully constructed defenses crumbling amid these unearthed horrors. The demon's malevolent presence seemed to loom ever closer, its spectral fingers reaching out to ensnare me once more. But just as the despair threatened to overwhelm me, a determination glimmered to life within my soul. I may have been wounded, I realized, but I was not broken. The trials I had endured and the battles I fought had forged me into a stronger, more resilient individual who would not be cowed by the demons of her past. Steeling myself, I pushed forward, delving deeper into the recesses of my psyche. I confronted the shame and self-loathing that had plagued me for so long, the lingering doubts and insecurities that had made me vulnerable to the demon's manipulation. It was a harrowing, grueling process, but with each layer of darkness I peeled away, I felt a newfound sense of clarity and resolve taking root. The demon's influence, I realized, had exploited these deep-seated vulnerabilities, using them to weaken my defenses and assert its control. But no more. I would not be a passive victim, a mere pawn to be manipulated by this ancient, malevolent force. I would face my inner demons head-on, no matter the cost. As I continued my introspective journey, I began to uncover the true root of the demon's power, primal fears and traumas that had been the bedrock of its influence. The feelings of abandonment, a crushing sense of worthlessness, the terror of being alone and unprotected. These were the vulnerabilities that had made me susceptible to the entity's corrupting touch. A wave of shame washed over me, my cheeks burning with the realization of how deeply these wounds had shaped me. But with that shame came a renewed determination, a resolve to confront and conquer these demons once and for all. Gripping the worn pages of the occult tome, I began to meticulously piece together the ritual that would allow me to face the demon's true nature, to uncover its weaknesses and vulnerabilities. The incantations and protective wards were intricate, demanding a focus and mental fortitude I had never attempted. As the ritual progressed, a surge of power coursed through me, a sacred energy that bolstered my resolve and sharpened my focus. The demon's presence began to coalesce before me, its spectral form twisting in response. I know your true nature now, demon. You have preyed upon my deepest fears and vulnerabilities, but no more. This ends today." The demon's response was a bone-chilling roar, its energy lashing out in a desperate attempt to break my concentration. But I refused to yield, my mental barriers fortified by the ritual's sacred power. Delving deeper into my psyche, I unearthed a well of strength and resilience, the resolve that had carried me through the darkest trials. "You have no power over me. The wounds you sought to exploit are mine to heal, and I will not let you use them against me any longer." With a final, agonized howl, the demon's presence imploded, its malevolent energy dissipating into the ether. I watched, transfixed, as the last vestiges of its essence vanished. The battle had been brutal, a clash of wills and raw, primal power. But I had emerged victorious, my inner demons confronted and conquered. As I stepped out into the cool night air, a sense of weary triumph took root. I had reclaimed my sense of self, my identity, the very essence of who I was. This was my fight, my war to win, and I would not rest until the last vestiges of the demon's malevolence had been purged from my life and the world. With a newfound sense of purpose, I gathered the remnants of the ritual, ready for the battles yet to come. The demon may have been vanquished for now, but its kind would not be easily deterred. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we love hearing your thoughts and feedback. So make sure to hit that like button, drop us a comment, and subscribe for more updates.